My name's Andy Crook, and I'm your host for this training topic on primary data capture. The question I'm asking today is, do you have robust systems in place to capture data? Primary data is a term I use for collecting data about a fault. The reason we collect data about faults when I'm doing a diagnostic job is so that we can make a best guess or a hypothesis about what has caused the fault and draw out test plans. What I have found is the better the primary data capture, the more likely the hypothesis or the guess is to be correct. I started measuring how many times my best guess at the fault was right first time, and it increased only when I started getting better primary data. And the motivation for getting primary data was obviously to increase the number of times, or the percentage if you like, that my initial best guess was correct. However, we're not just talking about diagnostics and repairs, because obviously these training topics are about business. But if you like, the thing that started all of these topics was a program or a training topic that I put together called the business of diagnostics. And part of the business of diagnostics, I started looking at primary data capture. So that's where this originates from. And what I've done is I've taken that, if you like, concept and the system for capturing primary data, and I've started to look at it across a sort of a wider spectrum of the business. So we still use it for capturing repair data, but what I'm going to ask you, if you like, the audience to consider is how do you capture primary data about the vehicle and the customer? So we're going to look at it in sort of three ways. We're going to look at primary data about a repair, primary data about the vehicle as a whole, and then primary data with regards to the customer. It's the customer we're going to focus on tonight. So primary data refers to information that is collected directly from its source, rather than being obtained from a secondary source or an existing data set. It is original and first-hand information that is gathered specifically for a particular task. Primary data is often collected through methods such as surveys, experiments, observations, interviews, focus groups, and direct measurements. So that's what primary data is. It's first-hand information collected directly from source. So that's the definition. How does it work in the garage business? That's I suppose the nub of tonight's training topic. So let's take the diagnostic job or a repair to a vehicle. We're probably familiar with the fact that we collect information when the customer drops the vehicle off. And what I do in the business of diagnostic course is I start to ask the garage, do you have a robust system in place for capturing data about the fault? So that includes a customer interview, which we've refined the process where we have a script, and we also have forms which we get the customer to fill out, which has increased the the accuracy of the information that we collect at this point, and the number of times that we get the right information. And it's really important that you have some sort of system in place for this, which I believe is the most important part of primary data collection with regards to a repair or a diagnostic job. So once we've got the information we need from the customer, this is what I include in my primary data collection, is the initial vehicle inspection, a test drive, a full scan of the vehicle, which allows me then to look at any tech service bulletins and do any just-in-time learning. And from all of that, I then look at my primary data capture and I make my best guess at what is wrong with that vehicle, and I come up with my test plan. So that's how it looks for a diagnostic job, or even a repair would be something similar. So you can see, and we're probably all familiar with that, but the question I'm asking is, how are you doing that? Do you have a robust process in place, or do you do it differently every time? And what a robust process is it's repeatable. You get the same outcome every time. Doesn't matter who does it, is the idea. So do we have that in place at your garage? That's the first thing. So all of that, fairly obvious, fairly simple. Probably heard me talk about it before. However, what about collecting information about the vehicle, which is the second aspect of primary data capture that I'm asking you to consider in this training topic? I guess we all sort of know how to sort of find out the make model of a vehicle from a basic VRN lookup. That is, if you like, primary data. However, the the world that we live in now allows us to do far more with a data set such as that. So once we know the make and model by looking at it or even entering the VRN, we can get far more information about that vehicle than ever before. For example, at this point, we could know if it is currently taxed or MOT'd straight away. And what's the point of knowing the MOT date of a vehicle? Well, if that then goes into your garage management system, you can send a reminder to let the customer know when their MOT is due. And if it was you that sent the reminder, there's a chance you might get that MOT for your garage if you're an MOT station. So there's, if you like, a very simple, very obvious example of a primary data capture helping the garage business. But it's more than that now, isn't it? Do you have a robust system in place for every vehicle that comes in for a pre-work inspection? And do you have the same for a post-work inspection? What does that pre-work inspection include in your business? And what does the post-work inspection include in your business? Now, these two, if you like, primary data captures are more or less in place to protect both the customer and the business from each other. So a pre-work inspection, you check the condition of the vehicle, amongst other things, before any work starts, and you make note. So I always liken this a bit to when you hire a vehicle. When you hire a vehicle, there's a pre-inspection and a post-inspection. That is, if you like, the very basic and least you should be doing when a vehicle arrives at your garage. Now, you could also take this a little bit further. So at the pre-work inspection point, you could check the essentials, brakes, lights and steering on every vehicle, and report any abnormalities or any defects to the customer, because it might not be in for that work, but you might have noticed something, and there's a chance of an upsell. On the post-work inspection, you're making sure you haven't created any problems for yourself, any damage, or something that's now not working on the vehicle that was working before it came in. Now, I'm sort of, if you like, a little bit more sensitive to post-work inspections because we often make changes to vehicles in our business that can have a knock-on effect on other systems. And you'll get the, 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 the sort of feeling you get only in the pit of your stomach that you know that when you're getting a vehicle having done some work, when there's a light on the dash and you can't remember whether it was there before because you haven't got a robust system in place for pre-work inspections. Because if you had done a pre-work inspection, you'd know whether that light was on before. You would know whether it was as a consequence of the work you've just carried out. But other things you can find out about the vehicle, and you can do this by if you like, interview, or that's a kind of formal way of saying speaking to the customer. You can ask them about their servicing regime. Do they strictly follow the manufacturer's guidelines? Do they have some sort of scheme of their own? And why I suggest that is garages have sort of, if you like, I've heard the term gold, silver and bronze servicing. And that's obviously not following the recommended manufacturer's servicing regime, and they're doing something different. So you can find out a little bit about it. Do they follow a regime, or do they service the vehicle on a ad hoc basis? It'll tell you a little bit about the customer and the vehicle. You can find out a bit about the repair history, because if you're collecting data on your garage management system or whatever, you will know what repairs you've done. You can ask the customer if any other repairs have been carried out since the last time they were at the garage, or if it is the first time it's at the garage, get an idea of what's been done. And obviously, an obvious one is the mileage. They're all things that you need to know about the vehicle. Now, it sounds dead obvious, but do you have a robust process for all of those things? I know technology can help us here, and I know of garages that have cameras set up to do the pre-work inspections in terms of the physical condition of the vehicle, and therefore you can check the post-work, and there you have evidence that you know the damage was on the vehicle before it arrived. In that case, a kind of protection for the business, if you like. So what I want to spend most of the time talking about primary data capture today is really about the customer. And this is what, if you like, can set yourself apart from the other garages in the area. That's what this can do. So I'm going to go down a quick list and I'm going to give you some ideas or some stuff that I've been considering and stuff that I already do. So obviously, the first one is the name of the customer. You're going to capture that and you're going to store it somewhere, hopefully, and you're going to remember the name. That's obvious. But do you ever ask that customer their preferred method of address? What do I mean by that? Well, you've all seen Faulty Towers. Well, if you're my age, you definitely have. Where Basil Faulty, the proprietor of the hotel, speaks to one of his customers always by the term Major. He likes to be addressed as Major, and he always calls Basil Faulty Faulty. So that's what I mean by preferred method of address. Can you call someone by their first name, or do they like to be called Mr. or another, if you like, method of address? That's really important because it'll set yourself apart. You won't annoy them by calling them something they don't like to be called. Even if it's like, for my case, I don't mind whether people call me Andy or Andrew. Normally, when someone calls me Andrew, it's because I'm in trouble, because generally everyone calls me Andy. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about here. It's that little detail that sets you apart. So when it comes to getting the customer's contact details, you'll probably take a landline number, a mobile number, their email address, etc. But do you ask them what their preferred method and time to be contacted is? You should also ask them for permission to send marketing materials and emails to them, flyers or reminder gifts. So you can see that at this point, we're sort of moving into a more, if you like, robust system that we have for capturing this data. We probably have a way of collecting their contact details, but do we make note of their preferred method and times to be contacted? Did we get permission to send marketing materials, whether they be emails, flyers, simple reminders, or if you like, a gift? We don't know. If you haven't, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about here. So what about their date of birth? Now, it seems a bit strange for a garage to take the date of birth of a customer, but if you get them to fill out a form, if it's the first time they visited your garage, you can include date of birth or a copy of their driving license, which will present you with their date of birth. For insurance purposes, should they need to hire a vehicle or you give them a loan vehicle, date of birth is a perfectly legitimate thing. What can you do with a customer date of birth? Well, how about sending them a birthday card or an offer during the month of their birthday, and you'll know something about them in terms of their demographics, how old they are from their date of birth. So it's important, or it could be important. You could ask them about their occupation. Now, this doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be by a sort of collection of data from a form. You could simply ask the customer, what do they do for a living? This will tell you the level of technical knowledge they possess. It'll also tell you something about their income level, their education. Yeah. And you can then start to look at, where they would hang out. And then you can start to look at whether or not, for example, they might work in the NHS and you might offer them a preferred rate. But this is all stuff that can come about through simple conversations, but you have to have a method of recording the data afterwards, and then what you do with it becomes important. You can ask family information. Are they married? Number of dependents. This will give you an idea of how many cars are in the household and how many cars are coming to you, and then you can start, if you like, soliciting for the extra work in a roundabout kind of way. You know how to do it. You can just simply ask. But it's really important. Do you have that data about that customer? You can ask them about their hobbies and interests. Why on earth would you need to know about the hobbies and interests of your customers? Well, if this customer is one of your A-type customers, there might be a sponsorship opportunity because A-type customers can tend to hang about with other A-type customers. They might not be your A-type customers, but you want to get their attention. And hobbies and interests might be one way of getting your name and your brand out there in the local community. You might have common interests with your customer, and therefore you might be able to infiltrate social media groups based on, or if you like, these A-type customers. You get the idea of what I'm talking about. Your best customers, where they hang out, is maybe where you want to hang out or where you want to place your marketing materials. So you can ask for reviews, feedbacks, and referrals. This will give you information on how that customer perceives your garage. If they're willing to give you feedback and you get referrals from this customer, you know they think you're doing a good job. Otherwise, they wouldn't refer you. They wouldn't risk their personal reputation on yours. That's the simple way of looking at it. So it's a great way of getting, if you like, a nod from a customer who might not say anything, but by referring you is saying you're doing a great job. And my favorite, and I've already mentioned it, is customer classification. This is primary data, something that you collect that's directly from the source, from the customer. What you want to do is, if all your A types have similar demographics, you can target them. And you know your A types have similar demographics because you now know, for example, more about them than you did before because you have a robust system of capturing that data. The same for your D types. If they are all similar and they hang around in similar places, you can avoid those by simply not taking on work or advertising in those areas. It makes a lot of sense. But what I'm asking is, do you have methods for collecting this? If you do ask a question or you get in a conversation with a customer, what do you do with that information? Do you share it with the other people in the business who could use it? The marketing department, the sales department, front of house, the technicians? Or is it kept in the back of your mind somewhere that you've forgotten the minute you speak to the next customer? Do you have a method of collecting it and then using it? So in the, if you like, the promotional material I sent out, I said about the story of the world's best car salesman. And I'm just going over time, but I want to tell you what the world's best car salesman did. Simply, he took primary data of his customers and he used it to his advantage. No matter what happened, when every customer he spoke to, whether they bought a car from him or didn't, he took notes about them. He asked them when their birthday was. And if you didn't know, nowadays you can find out most people's birthdays from social media. Facebook, for example, people put their birthday on there. You can pick it up. That's a secondary data source, but you can put it into your primary data capture. And he sent them a card. On the anniversary of them buying a car, he sent them a card. He was always at the forefront of the minds of people that had interacted with him whenever they thought about changing their vehicle. He was the guy they went to because he kept in touch with them. He followed up on every sale and he continued a relationship with that customer way after the sale had taken place by simple methods, simple birthday cards, knowing what they knew, knowing what they liked, and when they turned up, as soon as he saw the customer, he knew something about them, he had a connection. That's the story behind the world's greatest salesman, car salesman. It's very, very simple. Yeah. So if you want to set your business apart, do something that no other garage in your areas is. Speak to your customers, record the data, and find some way of surprising them with it. My name's Andy Crook. Hopefully that's been of interest. Certainly something different to think about. If I've made you think about anything to do with how you run your business, then I've done my job. Remember, my mission is to make garage owners more successful in business. Thanks for watching.